Hi, welcome back to another episode of Geekified. So one of the worst things that can possibly happen to a TV show that you love, or one of the best things that can happen to a TV show that you hate, is it's cancelled. But that term wasn't used this time. We just know it's not coming back, and that's Jupiter's Legacy. So that was one of the strangest events to happen over the past couple of days. There was no use of the word cancelled. Strangest thing that I've ever seen. I have never seen it happen to any other TV show. I've never heard the word not being used by the TV show itself. Cancelled. Jupiter's Legacy will not return. For me, that's fucking cancelled, mate. So I don't know what that's about. So hi Nathan, how are you?
Yeah, I'm really good, man. Really good. I was good news from me.
Yeah, you were not a fan. I don't think there wasn't very many fans of this, sadly. It's a shame, but like good attempt. I felt it was a good attempt, but it just didn't hit very many of the marks. Just to let you know, you guys, if you're watching this, one of the other team members might jump in halfway through, and I'm probably not going to get time to edit it out, so it'll just appear randomly on your screen. So the whole question we've got today to discuss, which I think is a really, really important, because you're going to get a lot of people who have done reviews of the show, but our platform, we discuss shit, we talk about shit, and we want to know the reasons that shit happens and the reasons of why things like this happen. Why did Jupiter's Legacy fail? And not just fail freaking hard. So if you've watched my review, I gave a review and I discussed quite a lot of the points in which I didn't like at the end. I enjoyed it. I thought it was great. Nathan, do I summarise how you felt about the show?
Well, I've been challenged not to use the words I always use.
Nathan, give me your catchphrase. What did you really think?
It was pish. That wasn't pish. It was just a bit slow. I think they tried to make it look too much like a comic book. Right. So when you see the fight scenes, it's all very close up, and it's like a very defined punch or a very defined movement, and even the way when they're building tension, it's sort of like sort of quite mid-range shots like they do in comic books, and they tried to make it look very like a comic book rather than using the comic book as inspiration and making a TV show. And I think that's where it went wrong. And if you look at things like when I've read most of The Boys, you watch the TV show, it feels very different. It looks very different. They tried to make an epic TV show. Watchmen, things like that. They make epic TV shows, whereas this, I think they tried to make it look like a comic book on the TV screen.
Yeah.
And that's where I think it went. They tried to keep quite a slow pacing to it. There wasn't an awful lot happening. I didn't think Josh, I can never say his last name, Duhamel. I normally like him. I didn't think he was very good in it. Ben Daniels is all right. But the rest of them, I didn't really care enough about the characters.
Yeah. And sadly, I think the problem is, like, I agree with absolutely. I enjoyed it a bit more, but the longer it's been since I've watched it, and even since I went back, and I don't know if you can see. I mean, I've got the signed comic book by Bart Miller there. Huge fan of the show. I mean, I was really looking forward to this. The longer it's been since I've watched it, and since picking up a couple of the comics again and looking at it again, I felt it was actually nostalgia that was making me view it through more rose-tinted glasses. I was actually just thinking I enjoyed seeing these characters brought to life, because I mean, one of my favorite characters is Ruby Red. She wasn't in it very much, and she I thought, yes, she's in it, yay, and then she wasn't in it, and that was it done. And then in the comics, she's in it quite a lot. She's in a decent amount in the comics. You know what I mean? It's like, so I think I was feeling more nostalgic about the show, having read the comic book when it first originally came out.
Yep.
So the more I think about it now, the more I think about it, it just wasn't a very well put together show.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. I just like I said, I just didn't care. I mean, I sort of started watching it and thinking, right, they'll get to this island in the first episode or two. And I stopped watching it after episode 5. They still weren't at the fucking island.
Mm.
In the flashbacks, I was like, Jesus Christ, talk about drawing out a backstory.
Yeah, for me, I think that's a massive issue, because I think as a TV show, when you run parallel stories, there's usually a similar reveal or similar plot point at the end of both the parallel stories, which interconnect to it. So the interconnection is that you obviously at the end of the parallel story in the past, would be them getting their powers, and then obviously maybe the parallel story would in the future would maybe be some recognition of their powers or feeling about their powers or use of their powers. Maybe Chloe was going to use her powers finally when they got to that point. None of that happened. They just got their powers. Not very much was explained. Actually,
Yeah.
more questions were given in the TV show than anything, and then nothing really happened in the future timeline. So the whole plot device of this flashback was absolutely pointless.
Yeah, I mean, I would understand if they'd done it, sort of halfway through the show, take an episode and have a backstory. Like they did that in Watchmen, didn't they?
Yes.
They did a couple of times. They did it. They went back and did almost a whole episode on
Can't remember the character's name. I was going to say his name.
what's her name? The main woman in it. Oh my God.
Sister Knight.
Sister Knight. Did a bit about her and her grandfather's origin story.
Yeah.
Later on, the Doctor Manhattan story as well through Vietnam and stuff like that. And then they built it around that. Whereas with this, it's just like it was always there. I mean, I'm not being funny. I felt like I was watching a 1930s black and white film, really sort of cheesy dialogue. Yeah, we get it. Josh Duhamel's dad died. The Utopian's dad died, and there's something to do with him. He maybe had powers or something, and then he sees his ghost, and it makes him go to this island. But then that was all the first episode, and the next 4 episodes, I was like, fuck's sakes, mate.
Yeah, to be honest, I mean, like I say it now, it was a mess. It was really a mess. But and what gets me, I mean, just before we did this show, I was obviously checking to see what knowledge Nathan has in the comics, because again, Nathan is here as being our brilliant mind of TV and film. Comic books and stuff, he doesn't know so much, so it's a good kind of offshoot of the fact that I'm a huge comic buff and Nathan isn't, so we get a good comparison. But I was asking Nathan, I was like, have you actually read anything of Jupiter's Legacy or Jupiter's Circle? And he was like, no, nothing at all. So I was like, right, okay, cool, just before we go ahead. But one of the things about the story that's actually in the comics is it's so much better. I mean, it is so much better. I mean, there's so many really massive plot points about one of the union is gay in the plot points. You don't even really get to see any of that, and that happens before the point you get in that story. You get a whole point about the Utopian and Lady Liberty weren't actually together from the start. She was with someone else. I won't spoil anything of who that was. If anyone wants to read the comics and go back and read it, I won't say it. But there's so many good stories that was in it that they glossed over. And then I think Mark Millar wrote an amazing story. And that to Mark Millar, the story that he wrote is absolutely incredible. Netflix or Stephen DeKnight or whoever did the writing of this came in and grabbed bits that they thought was good. Why are you taking one of the best comic book writers that God has ever given us and snatching bits just to make it fit TV? Because you fucked it, is the best way to put it. You fucked it.
Yeah. And what they're calling it now, anthology, aren't they? They're making all the Miller World TV shows in the same universe, isn't it?
It's just these two, as far as I'm aware. So as far as I'm aware, they're staying in the Jupiter's Legacy world, but they're visiting Super Crooks, which is another, which I don't think, again, it's been a while since I've read Super Crooks. I only read that one, so I don't know much about it. But Super Crooks, I don't think was in the world of Jupiter's Legacy in the comics.
Yeah.
Which kind of threw me when I read that in the news, but I'll go back and see if I'm right or wrong.
I mean, a £200 million price tag on a TV show, 10 episodes. That's like Game of Thrones level of production value, isn't it? I mean, you can see there's a high production value, and some of the shots did look awesome. But like I said, I just felt it felt like a really expensive when they were fighting and they were all grouped up and stuff. It felt like a really expensive Power Rangers or Pokemon.
Yeah, I mean, one of the comments I put in it was only me that did the review because I watched it. I basically took a day off work to watch this shit. I watched the entire thing in one day, did the review that night, and it just, I don't know, it just didn't really punch at the end of it. And when my review, I said about the comic, about the costumes as well. Like, it was the weakest part about it. It's as if they felt so significantly tied to what was in the comics. And I don't know if Mr. Miller had any influence in this, but it's almost as if they felt they had to have it exactly the way it was in the comics. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't always work.
Does the Utopian have the big beard and hair in the comics?
Yes, that's all normal.
Yeah. That's a bit shit as well.
But the problem, well, I think the biggest issue with a lot when you de-age or age people is you know it. You know for a fact that that's not what they look like. So I think that's the issue. Whereas in a comic book, you're actually seeing a flash to when that person is old. You know what I mean?
Another thing I don't know if it's the same in the comic or not either is like you've got the world's biggest superhero family, and they just live in a normal house in a normal street, and they have a farm that they go up to sit about and have dinner and stuff like that. You know,
Yeah.
so I don't know if is it like that in the comic as well. They're like a normal family, and then they happen to have superpowers, but everybody knows who they are. It's just a bit. I didn't really didn't resonate with me. That was a bit weird.
Yeah, yeah, I get where you're coming from. It is a lot like that in the comics as well.
I mean, I thought that I didn't recognize Ben Daniels when he was older as I can't remember the brainwave.
Yeah. Brainwave, yeah. So why was the makeup so good for Ben Daniels, but nobody else that seemed to pull it off at all?
I love Ben Daniels. I think he's a great actor, and I thought he was probably the best guy in it, to be honest.
Yeah. But when he looked old, he was brilliant. Like, they just looked old.
No, I took a double. I thought it was Peter Mullen for a second.
So did I, yeah. Actually, I thought they were just done him up.
One time I thought it might have been Lieb Schreiber as well. I kept looking twice at him. But yeah, no, I think I've not finished it. I may finish it. It wasn't atrocious. It wasn't horrifically bad. It wasn't Army of the Dead bad. It was okay. It was just okay.
Army of the Dead bad, as in it wasn't 9.5 out of 10. Nathan, is that what you're saying?
2.5 out of 10, mate. Fucking shut up. Don't get me started. You'll trigger me again. You'll trigger me.
You're not getting any spin-offs out of this.
No, I just thought it, I mean the trailers looked phenomenal for it. From reading about the source material, I thought it was a really cool idea. And then obviously we've had things like Umbrella Academy and The Boys, which are both amazing sort of ensemble superhero type stories. I just think they missed the mark with this. It was almost there, but just not quite. Yeah, the pacing was wrong. The look was slightly wrong. The casting was okay. I thought the actors were all pretty good in it, but
I think the casting was great. I think everyone played the role really well. Again, I'm going to go back to I still feel the same from my initial review. I still feel that this is solely down to directors. I think maybe partly to do with writers, but I think there's been so many people involved that's muddled this up, and it's just became an absolute mess.
I know there's a lot of producers on this.
Yeah, it's just, I think like you have to have somebody coming in. And I know how much people hate Mr. Snyder, but when I say Snyder, I mean him in the basis of the guy's still got a good vision of what he wants to make and makes everything look the same. You've got the Russo brothers, you've got Christopher Nolan. These people come in and they make things similar, feel the same, consistent across as they go.
Even the what you call them, the Wachowski, how do you say it? Wachowski
sisters, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, even them, even in that terrible film they did, was it Jupiter Ascending?
Yes.
Even that, it's had the same sort of feel as Matrix and stuff like that, didn't it?
Yeah, I mean, they've got a certain feel as it goes. Every episode of Jupiter's Legacy felt different and felt a bit out of place, didn't quite work, and it just pay somebody, some other department, $1 million less, and pay $1 million to somebody really, really good who's got a good vision. Jon Favreau, if you can get him for a bloody weekend, pull him in. You know what I mean? And give him, just say, listen, how would we get this on track?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. If you, I was surprised when it got cancelled. It got discontinued. Is probably a better word.
Discontinued. I know. You don't know what you call it because that was a bizarre thing.
The announcement was they released the actors from their contracts. So the announcement, wasn't it? It's a really weird way of.
The most bizarre thing I've ever heard.
Yeah, but I think it's because it was the #1 show in the world for about 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So the viewing figures were there. You probably find that people weren't rewatching it, and that's where Netflix look at that, don't they? Look at rewatching figures, and they look at they pay more attention to customers, meta scores and critic scores a lot more now as well, because I think it was a 37% critic score on Rotten Tomatoes.
Really?
Score, I think I read. Metacritic was quite a bad score as well.
Yeah.
I think Google reviews was average. And I think they're starting to, although a few years ago they said they didn't really care about that, I think they're starting to care more now because there's more competition in the marketplace and there's only more of it as well.
I mean, as much as I don't trust them because they cancelled one of the best TV shows that's ever been on God's green earth, the OA. If you've ever watched OA, watch that. 2 seasons of some god tier television and left it on the most horrendous cliffhanger you could ever imagine, not telling us what was going to happen. Horrendous. But Netflix, I think, have made the right decision.
I think so. Well, like I said, I wasn't a big fan, so I think. But having said that, they do renew a lot of pish as well, don't they? So
yeah, they do. I mean,
they made a show 13 Reasons Why about a girl killing herself, and it's 3 seasons in now, isn't it? 4 seasons in.
You're speaking to the wrong person with that. I enjoyed it.
Jesus Christ. But,
Have you watched it?
I tried to. I tried to. You know what I am watching just now, which is really good. A program called Love on Netflix, Judge Apatow TV show, and it's got the blonde girl at Community in it.
Okay, yep.
Really good. Watch it.
There you go, a wee mid-advert for you. But yeah, Jupiter's Legacy. I am sad, but also I understand why. It's like a really horrible breakup. But you know that you were a dick in the relationship.
You not noticed on Twitter and stuff like that the Boys season 3 must be not that far away because they've started ramping up the Twitter stuff. You see Starlight's music video last week? Yeah. And then there's a lot of they're trying to go a bit active on Twitter again. So I don't think it's going to be a year away.
They're finished filming, aren't they?
Yeah, and I think Umbrella Academy's almost finished filming as well.
Yeah, they're still filming. I remember seeing something about that because get this right, Elliot Page.
Elliot Page,
is still filming. I think because that's where they put something up and said something, so they're still on set. So we know that that's still going.
Interesting to see how they deal with that situation.
Yeah, it's a very interesting situation, but given that it's a real life thing, and he is playing a female in it.
Yeah.
So how do they kind of do that? Does he become female? Or
be interesting to see how they handle it. I mean, that shows they've handled everything pretty well so far. So it'll be interesting to see how they do that.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll do the right thing at the end of the day. But I'm sure they'll probably be correct to whatever they want.
Or they might just not mention it.
That would be. I think it would probably be quite weird if they just didn't say anything.
We don't know. We'll see. But anyway, yeah, and I think I think Jupiter's Legacy had the potential to be as good as those shows and just fell a wee bit short.
Yeah. Well, there you go. R.I.P. Jupiter's Legacy. But Jupiter's Legacy World will still be going on with Super Crooks. But forget Super Crooks. Leave it. Just drop that. Mr. Miller, if you're watching, we want Nemesis. Well, I want Nemesis. Anyone who knows what Nemesis is wants Nemesis, and I want Zac Efron to play him. If he doesn't play him, I'm going to find somebody and find you and punch you.
I mean, I don't know that much about the Mark Miller comics just from what you've told me, really. But the slate of stuff he's got coming, they're making a few films, aren't they, as well? American Jesus, is that one?
American Jesus is coming. We've got Huck coming.
And another 2 I read. Can't remember what they were now.
Super Crooks is coming. The Magic Order, I think, was going to be a animated show.
I think Super Crooks is initially going to be animated, and then they're going to make a live action as well.
Right. Okay. And then, but Nemesis is incredible. Nemesis is just following the most narcissistic psychopath villain you could ever imagine, and there's no superheroes in the world.
That sounds good to me.
Brilliant. And like I said, it's like Zac Efron to play him. I'd pay really good money to see that.
I think they just started shooting John Wick 4, I think I read as well.
That gets me excited.
Yeah, me too.
But there you go. What went wrong with Jupiter's Legacy? Quite a lot, apparently, according to us too. But it's gone forever, be remembered. But can't wait for the next Mark Miller piece. Huge fan, love him. Still keeping my posters there.
I can't wait for the King's Man either.
Oh, I know, that's going to be a belter. Absolute belter. Huge.
I've loved both of those films. And whatever Fiennes brother it is, Rafe Fiennes, isn't it? I love him. I love him and everything. Yeah,
it's going to be epic. Absolutely epic. So I'm looking forward to that. Very sad that a Mark Miller piece is not quite made the step from comic book world to TV, but there is plenty more on the way. But thank you very much for joining us, Nathan.
No problem.
Thank you from me, and we can do this all day.